Yeah. So we're in the Conscious Wealth Studios with the executive and the executive and the mystic, which is who?
It's the mystical executive and the executive mystic.
Exactly.
Say that again.
It's the mystical executive and the executive mystic.
All right. I love that. I have not heard that from the two of you. I love the name of your business. And I want to talk about how the two of you have been the executive and mystic to one another and like your relationship and how that's evolved. Because and I'll just preface it by saying what we're doing with Conscious Wealth Living is helping people learn about ways that they can scale their business. And your approach is unique and it's complete. It's integrated. So I'd like to hear ways how your relationship, how the two of you came to this idea.
It's your fault.
It's my It is true I introduced you. Yes.
Why are you asking the obvious rhetorical question?
Yeah, but you have been the mystic to each other and the executive to each other, Noah?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I've had the pleasure of working with Kristina now for a few years as a result of an introduction by you. And in that work, even though I was working with her for more personal reasons, in my career, what I do is I work with CEOs and founders and private equity people running companies and help them through a lot of challenges that they have professionally as well as within their culture. So there's a challenge being a leader, and there's also the culture they're trying to implement, hopefully consciously. Sometimes they do it unconsciously, but
Sure.
it is conscious, so we'll say on purpose with intention.
Yes.
And along the way, conversations that I had with Kristina evolved to the point where I would talk to her more about the things I was doing in my business and practice. She'll explain, worked in companies, understands that, her version of Dilbert, to say, I get it, I see what goes on there.
Yeah.
It just seemed like an obvious thing. So, some of the conversations we were having, I said, this would be good stuff for someone else to hear.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about some pretty cool stuff, So if a CEO realizes that their personality traits, good and bad, become a thumbprint on the culture, and they wanted to improve the culture, therefore improve themselves, or vice versa, it's a win-win for everybody. What's your?
Yeah, so I would say that for me, the mystical comes naturally, as naturally as it can be. It's always been my special interest. It's always been something that I've loved. And Fred, actually both of you have had quite an influence on this, but knowing that the business aspect of this, that there was a lot of opportunities that were being missed in terms of integrating these two together. And when Fred and I came to a partner relationship, we were like, hey, we can actually come into coherence about this. And maybe it's interesting for some people, maybe that they're going to find something beneficial that we can apply what Fred was saying, which is this idea that how you are as a person, how you show up as a person, it's going to be so impactful on how you show up in the company. You can't compartmentalize as much as you would like. And in the same vein, we couldn't compartmentalize our relationship anymore to just simply be conversations between the two of us. We wanted to expand out and be able to say, hey, can we bring this perspective to people and actually make it really practical and grounded? And that's what I really enjoy about the play on the executive and the mystic, because everyone thinks of the executive as very, it's grounded and it's non-emotional, and it's just thinking and things like that. And yet we all know that executives are people and they need to be people, increasingly so.
Yes.
And the mystical brings in that understanding of patterns that are happening at multiple different levels. That's the way I see it, is that mystic quality says, you think that this is what's happening, but actually we can see that there's these multiple layers of reality that are happening that are actually going to inform what you think is a simple decision. And how can we actually be better informed for what that looks like?
And so everyone knows what the executive is. You just gave a rounder version of that. And then the mystic is who we bring to the company. Is the mystic, the mystical side is the realization of these patterns that we bring and how these patterns put in, as Fred said, an imprint on them, on this company? Or what is the mystic? How should somebody think about that? Because I don't think it's
not apparent.
It's not apparent. Executive, everybody knows, or at least they think they know. And you're rounding it out, but what is the mystic?
I think you just said it. You're rounding out. I think the mystic is a very holistic approach to how you approach anything. You recognize that there's a physical, there's a mental, there's an emotional, there are all sorts of, spiritual factors. There's so many invisible factors that are coming into something, and the mystic takes into account all of it.
Sorry, I start to smile, first of all, because I'm so happy that we're all in the studio together. And then two, I like get these mischievous ideas of like the quote by Pierre de Chardin, which says we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's that two sides of the same coin.
So we're executives having a mystical experience.
Well, the reason I like mystical is that it does encompass a sort of a perspective from, forget 30,000 feet, even wider than that, universal, to understand that there's these patterns and archetypes that Jung talked about that occur. And when people experience certain things, and what Kristina's gift is to be able to say, oh, you're looking at it from this way, try this way. I mean, I always use this as a very brief metaphor. Imagine we're all at a card table, holding up a ball, and we're all looking at the ball, and the question is, what color is it? And you say red, Molly says yellow, Kristina says blue, and I say white. And that's what we see. And we argue like hell that we're correct. And we are correct, but we're not complete. Okay, because if we put everyone's perspective together, we realize we have a beach ball.
Yeah.
It's a striped ball.
Yeah.
And now that perspective is very, very different than just looking at it from just the angle I can see. And so just like that happens if there's four people at a card table, the same thing happens internally in a human being. You have a very different experience if you're coming from your mind, your heart, or your gut. All right? And much less the visceral experience of the physicality of being on this planet. And so if you look at all those perspectives, I know someone who just comes from their head totally and misses all the cues of the heart. I know that in the same company, guy comes totally from his heart and misses all the stuff in his head, drives the other guy crazy. And the two of them make more of a complete human being, but they're still your gut, an informed gut. And that's part of what it is realizing there's other aspects to one's humanity and is on the surface or even through our own lens, and then include that in your conversations with yourself and your considerations of others.
So what is the purpose of business?
Busyness.
Well, I think when you ask that question, for me, it has a lot of weight because I've been a member of the conscious capitalism community for so long.
Yeah.
And the word purpose is about your why.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do? An outcome is making profit. An outcome is employing people. An outcome is generating some activity, some service and product and so forth and so on. But the fulfillment of the why, which is very much at times an intangible, can be done in many different material ways. And how do you measure the success of the business? Again, if you look at the dimension through conscious capitalism, you are benefiting a stakeholder. So it's not just a shareholder. It includes the employees, the vendors, the community at large, your customers. And so but that's the effect of it. But the purpose is going to be, why do we do what we do?
What do we do? Yeah.
And that might, why does conscious wealth exist? Is it just to make money for the people that are invested through you? Or is it to do something else in their quality of life, with their family, with themselves, in whatever dimension you want to approach it? Same kind of question.
Cultivate abundance.
Okay, but there you go. And then, and so you say that, and it's a great pithy statement, and it has a tremendous amount of implications.
For
right?
sure.
Because we apply the stakeholder mentality to abundance. Okay, everybody wins. And the cultivation also has an implication. For my company, it's to unleash potential. Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's results for strategy. Unleash is a powerful active verb, and then potential is something that's latent inside a business or an individual. And those are the kind of things that we try and look for.
Yeah. And, I joke about saying busyness, I said that when you first asked, but I think it's actually a really important aspect because we can choose as humans with privilege and opportunity to be able to really do whatever it is that we want to set our attention to, right? I always say that the greatest human capacity for free will is our attention and where we choose to place it. And if we choose to place our attention on our business and growing something or moving something forward or perpetuating something in the world, that is the vehicle in which all our lessons come. That's the vehicle in which our personal growth comes. That's, and so we can choose anything. Some people will choose to look at their children or their family and do that. Some people will choose to look at their legacy. Some people will choose to look at their business and then their legacy or something along those lines. Like whatever you choose to put your attention to is going to be where you are going to see the fruits of your attention and how that ends up. And so a business is a wonderful way to be able to affect not just yourself with your attention, but to be able to point multiple attentions in one direction, and when you can do that well, you can enact change so that other people can, you know, and in its most ideal form, you can enact change that's going to make it so that other people can spend their attention on what they want to,
That's
so
right.
that other people can, you know, use the fruits of that attention and say, yes, this is what I choose to do with my business. This is what I want to go forward with and how I want to impact the world.
And your business is a microcosm of your life. It's going to show up. People are going to be placed in front of you that you're like, where the hell did you come from? You know, why are you here? You really irritate me. And you might find out that you're really just irritated at yourselves and just express to this individual out here. Because if you practice the or believe the premise that we're all connected,
Yeah.
then there's no such thing as a casual coincidence. There's meaning behind that. The synchronicity of someone showing up is going to give you a lesson. And sometimes the ones that give you the lessons are the ones that give you the hardest lessons.
Yeah. So what strikes me about we work with entrepreneurs, primarily entrepreneurs like your team.
Yep.
And people say, oh, my company's like my baby. And I do think in some ways that that's an exercise of parenting, in the sense that parenting can make us better human beings, of business can make us better human beings. You mentioned Jung before. A lot of psychotherapists, as I was talking this, that you can only get as far as your psychotherapist. Does that apply to companies, that you can only get as far as the company or the company's leader? Are there patterns if you're locating patterns in a leader? How does that apply to your work and how you work with leaders, so that do their companies get stuck where they get stuck?
It's a great question. I would say that very similar to, you know, the systems, you know, like your company's always just going to go up. What is that quote? It's apologies, Simon Sinek, who says, your company goes up to the great level of its.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
That's atomic.
We share a brain sometimes.
That's atomic habits. Yeah.
Oh, atomic habits.
You don't
Thank
rise
you.
to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Right. And if we
Yep.
And so if we recognize that a person, if they've created a system that allows everyone's optimal kind of coherence within the company to come forward, and everyone can kind of create a shared vision and enact that shared vision and actually then you're not limited by one person and one person's leadership. But what we recognize is that leadership is absolutely crucial to be able to create an environment that can support that.
Yeah, it's the light being in the bottle. I mean, to me, the culture is the secret weapon in any organization.
Yeah.
Coming out of COVID, the companies that had healthy cultures thrived. The ones that were toxic went away. Not that some didn't survive their toxic, they had enough money in the bank, they could.
Sure.
But in terms of the well-being for everyone involved, because that was a global phenomenon that everyone realized, oh my God, I could kill someone if I don't behave in a certain way. Whether people agree with what was decided or not is a different issue. But just the fact that that event occurred that we all share.
Sure.
I think we all have kind of amnesia now. It's like, COVID, what was that? Didn't really happen, but it existed. And Kristina's right. The leader clearly has a big impact in the culture, but the individuals in the company are not victims of it. You know, they are participants and can make a big difference. They can challenge leadership if the leaders behave unconsciously, and they have. It depends on the culture, but nevertheless it can. And the idea of culture with the social fabric of an organization is bound by the mores and the values and principles that the company chooses to believe. I give a metaphor that culture is like we're all standing in a swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's all our jobs to keep the water clean. Okay, so there's no peeing section in a swimming pool.
We hope so.
Right.
We hope not.
Yeah, because whatever you do in one end ends up everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what culture's like. It
Yep.
permeates everything. You cannot play the games with it. And so if you get a group of people that have enough awareness, enlightened leadership, whatever you want to call it, to say, we're dedicated to something that's greater than us. That's our purpose.
Yeah.
And we can contribute to something that benefits many people, not just the shareholders, but also ourselves, our fellow workers, our employees, as I said earlier. That gives meaning in what you do. And so from a business standpoint, if you have a brand with no meaning, you have a commodity. If a brand with meaning, you have something that's really distinct and unique. You know, and that's what we're talking about. So if you can give people purpose in their lives, that Japanese koan that says before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Yeah.
After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You did the exact same thing. The difference is, what does it mean to you as you're engaged in the process?
Yeah. And oftentimes we were saying before about how the leader will reflect their own issues, their own limitations, their limiting beliefs. If someone is leading a company, we'll often find that they are surrounded by their limiting beliefs in the form of people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a result of that, the more that a leader does the work on themselves, they can release people around them from having to participate in that drama.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right? So it's like, oh, not that we have necessarily a lot of leaders who are like this, who may have issues with men who want to have power over them or something like that. They have daddy issues will be a very
or mommy issues.
Or mommy issues. They have parent issues in whatever way. And all of a sudden they find that there's somebody who's coming in who looks and acts and is like that. And all of a sudden they are acting like a child. They are acting like their childhood self. They can't overcome the limiting belief. They can't overcome the circumstance of whatever it is. And therefore everybody around them is kind of forced into this drama of the psychodrama of what it is to do that. Right. And it's something I've seen so many times.
I've got a multi-dimensional question for you too, is how do you help executives and culture, or how do you help the executives recognize their own limitations, their limitation of the culture? And then how do you do that on the 3 levels? We talked about the mind, the heart, and what was on the gut. And so how do you do it on those different levels? And then how do you do it on an individual and a structural level? Because I know you're very much into structure and process like me. So how does that work in practical terms when you're working with companies or leaders?
I'll give you the clue, and you can read the label from inside the jar, so you hire Kristina.
Okay.
To be able to help you reflect on what's there.
And what ends up happening is that when I work with people, I find that there is a lot that obviously, especially with entrepreneurs and people who are, tech CEOs and things along those lines, is that they'll bring stuff that they're seeing in their own life. And then they're like, I want to go do this in my company. And you're saying, okay, but there's a lot that's behind this desire to kind of project into the company the thing that you're working on yourself and recognize that there's something there. We've come up with a framework called the ABCs, which I think addresses the head, the heart, and the gut: alignment, balance, and coherence. And the reason that I bring that up in this context is because there's a framework that says if you can kind of get to the basics inside of yourself of alignment, balance, and coherence, and then you can look at your company and do alignment, balance, and coherence, everything's going to work out a lot better. Alignment is all about principles. It's that mental aspect of like, I have the most universal principles that I can possibly come up with.
Higher order.
Mm-hmm. Is what you were talking about earlier with what is cultivating abundance.
Higher order,
Mm-hmm.
higher vibration. There we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the difference between saying, some says that we will never hire somebody from this state. It's a limiting belief. It's a principle that doesn't make any sense, right? It says, okay, maybe there's a logistical reason for that. But what is a more universal principle that says we're going to, do something that can align with people in the company?
Yeah. And then balance, if you want to focus it on your heart, it's really the embracement of the paradox. We live in a world of duality,
Mm-hmm.
And in business, you're fighting 2 things. You want to have exceptional service or great costs, or a product that you make, the best quality or affordability.
Yeah.
These things on the surface are in opposition to each other, 2 sides of the same coin, and great leaders embrace that paradox. They don't fight it. They don't have to feel like they have to choose from one to the other. They just have to sort of balance between the 2 and just realize that they're both necessary. And it's the leader's ability to find the point of balance, homeostasis for the system, to perform properly, that makes a critical difference. And then it gets down to coherence as the last step.
Yes. And coherence, I would relate to the gut in the same way that you would say that, you maybe go to the heart doctor every day and look after your heart, something like that. You maybe never go to a neurologist, right? You set a principle up in there and you kind of set it on go and it keeps running. But the gut you feed every day.
Mm-hmm.
Coherence is about what are you doing every day? Like, what are you doing every moment to regulate your nervous system, to make sure that you are showing up with the best possible practices that you can, and that you're able to take one foot and put it in front of the other and actually apply all of these practices that you find in balance with, getting that cognitive dissonance and holding it at 2 apparent opposing truths at the same time, that you're incorporating your principles and you're actually doing it on a daily basis. It's not just lip service. It's not just let's go to a retreat and have all these great thoughts and not actually do it. And so that is the coherence: is how does the rubber hit the road every day,
Right.
and how are you dealing with the bumps that come along with
And it's having the conviction that what you're doing is the right thing to do. Because you've gone through the filter of what do I think about this? What do I feel about this? And what is my gut telling me? A well-informed gut is great. An ill-informed gut's terrible because it doesn't take the other two into account. But there is a brain in our gut. They exist in our solar plexus just as much as one sits up here in our mind that tells us. Everyone knows that. How do you feel about that? And that's a gut feel, right? Derek talks about the gut feel. Or a woman's intuition is the other one that's people realize. Another one of these gut things. And that's what it comes down to. And so coherence is then having the courage to move forward with your conviction. Not necessarily the certainty, because you may be certain, but you may not be right.
Yeah.
But at least you understand why you're doing what you're doing. You've thought it through. You've looked at the consequences, and you move forward with courage and conviction to make it reality.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is calming down the nervous system so that you're actually checking in with your gut and maybe not the third cup of coffee you had.
Yeah. Exactly. Because there's a real physiological thing called heart-mind coherence, which says there is actually a hierarchy.
Well, you two have done it before, right?
Yeah.
I think I walked in your house and I saw this thing.
Yeah.
Tell me how that worked and how you work with leaders on that.
So heart rate variability
Yeah.
is what is being measured when we measure heart-mind coherence. And it's this idea that for anybody who's ever sung in a choir or anyone who's ever been in a place where everybody's breathing at the same time, everyone can kind of naturally get into that coherent state, especially in a group coherent state. Those are two examples of those. Is that it's a state of relaxation in which you're breathing in and out through your chest. Some people choose to breathe gratitude in and out through your chest. They think about something they're grateful for, they think about someone they love, something like that. And what happens is the physiology changes quite dramatically, honestly, when you're in that state.
Absolutely.
And the mind is no longer the one that's in charge, because ultimately heart-mind coherence and the practice says the heart is actually the best master of the entire system, the enteric system, which is the gut, the brain and the heart. If we if we actually concentrate our attention on the heart, the whole system's going to come into alignment, and suddenly you're not off chasing a cup of coffee. You're not off, kind of hangry. You're not doing all these different things. The heart is actually governing the system coherently.
So as a leader, I can learn how to do this, and that's going to calm my system down. And a calm system is going to be, I'm going to be a better leader.
Yes.
How do I apply that to the culture of my company? How do I apply that to the leaders and the people that
Well,
work?
I think the biggest thing that happens, the outcome of that, is that you're present. And if you're present, regardless of what happens in front of you, you're able to respond to it appropriately. Because you're not in a fight or flight. I mean, our gut is our animal instinct, right? That's fight or flight. What's going on here? That's where you kind of get the vibe from somebody. Your head's in a different place, your heart's in a different place, but if they're all working together and you're present, and no matter what comes at you, not that you're indifferent to it, but you don't have to get engaged with it in a negative way because it's not triggering anything in you. We talked about that earlier. Something might get triggered because of past relationships and things like that. If someone comes from an abusive family or a family where you were neglected emotionally, that's going to affect your other relationships and work. It's all relationships. You not be in an intimate relationship, but you're in a relationship. Yeah. And at the end of the day, and for all the stuff we're talking about, you got to get results in the business.
That's right.
The business has got to make money, period. Otherwise, as Stephen Covey once said, no margin, no mission. So, and what we're talking about is really not soft, squishy little kind of Oprah moments. These are the realities of dealing with yourself to be the best that you can be, and then dealing with a culture to allow people to help create an environment which they can be willingly show up to be the best that they can be and not get out of shape. And that's really what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And what you recognize is too is that coherence, the actual state of coherence, is contagious. One person goes into a room and they have coherence, and everybody else, if they're going to allow it, if they're looking after their own system, they can all fall into balance, and a meeting feels a lot different.
Yeah.
Right. Very practical, I think.
Fred, I'm always struck by the things you did with the culture at the bakery that you worked at. What was like one or two of the things that you did to change the coherence of that company or that culture of that company?
Well, one, we uncovered our purpose, and it was a bakery. So we baked goods a lot, 450 SKUs, shipped it all over Atlanta. And, if you think about it, putting something in your body is a pretty intimate act, right? Not the most intimate, but right number two, and so food safety becomes a concern. Okay. But beyond that, then, what our purpose was is we nourish lives.
Yep.
And it had multiple meanings because it did that 360 of the stakeholder mentality. Because clearly, we nourish lives, we provide employment for our employees and make sure that they're able to take care of their families. The extended family sometimes is 3 to 4 to 1 because of the family's kids and spouses that they have. And then also for our customers at the time, they were able to make a living doing this stuff. The well-being of the product itself is important, and also for our shareholders to make sure we get a proper return and so forth and so on. So we gave them that sense of purpose. This is what we do, and then we take care of each other. It allowed us to make decisions like we started working with, during COVID, it was really hard getting labor, really hard, because you come into a bakery, 105 degrees in the summer with a mask on. It's not a great work environment physically. But we started working with people that are women primarily that were coming out of situations where they lost their children because of addiction. A lot of meth addicts, they lose 2, 3 children, and we would hire them temporarily if they did a good job and they stayed sober. We'd offer them a permanent job, and for several, we helped them move into apartments. Everyone pitched in, bought them furniture for their home. They got their kids back. It was a big deal. That fills you with a whole lot of love when you know you contributed to someone's well-being. Several did not make it.
Yeah.
That happens, but the 1 or 2 that did made it all worthwhile. And so that's how we began to do it. And I'll tell you one day that was really impactful for me, because I had a meeting with all the employees at one time when I first was named CEO, and I had all the managers there, of course, and we had probably at that time maybe 60 employees. We doubled it over time because our business grew. And I told all the employees, and I'm fortunate I'm bilingual, so I could speak in Spanish, even though we had probably 10 countries of origin, the majority were Hispanic. And I said that the way these managers maintain your work area, your break area, and your restrooms is a direct reflection of what they think about you.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this group of managers go pale because the work areas, the break rooms, and the restrooms were not pleasant. They were not easy to do. So we immediately started working on it. And I actually, at that time, because of the situation in the company, I paid my own money. I got reimbursed ultimately to get this stuff done. Paint, carpet, tiles, working refrigerators, microwaves.
Yeah.
We built a picnic area, all this stuff. And I'll never forget, I was making the rounds, and I always walking into the break room where there were a lot of female employees were in there. They brought their lunch and they're talking and chattering. And I was like, ladies, how's it going today? And we had already done a lot of the improvements. We just knew they just had to tell me, microwave's not working. Boom, it's changed. The refrigerator's not working. Everything was fixed. And this one lady stopped and looked at me, and she said, I want you to know that God sent you to help us. And we are grateful for that. And because of that, just know that we're going to help you. I was thunderstruck.
Oh, I'm thunderstruck.
I was like, I got all choked up. I didn't know what to say, because this woman from very humble origins just said something so profound to me that just moved me. Not because it's something that I did that I deserve recognition for, as much as I felt, you know what, it's working.
Yeah.
It's working, because she nourished me in that moment. And who would have thought that a line employee is going to nourish the CEO of the company in an emotional way? But she did. Yeah. And I was so grateful for that. And that's an example of how it works.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And we talk a lot about emotional intelligence, and how emotional intelligence is obviously a very important thing, in which we recognize that, emotional intelligence, signs of emotional intelligence are, hey, I can have bad news, I can take criticism, I'm able to deliver news to other people, I'm able to handle conflict, I can handle, I'm not repressing my emotions, I'm allowing them to move. That's how I would say it. I'm allowing emotions to occur in my life, and they arise, and you can have moments in which you tell a beautiful story and you can feel that, right? You're not just it's you fully accept what comes. Spiritual intelligence, I think, is very similar to what we talked about with mysticism, right? Where it's this idea that there are so many different patterns that we can see in reality, and there's a law, ancient law in alchemy called as above, so below, right? And I kind of translate that to the fractal nature of the world, right? And which not only can you see patterns that happen on one level, but you can also see. You can also affect things on different levels too, right? And so this is one of the things that I love to do with people is every week they come to me and say, what's going on? and they'll say, well, this thing is happening over here. And I was like, I bet you that thing's happening over there, and like the more that we recognize the interconnectedness of our own lives, the more that we can learn to affect our businesses in a really beautiful way, right? In which lessons don't have to be quite so hard. Things don't have to completely fall apart before you're actually seeing something, because you're recognizing that there are a lot of if you want to say warning signs, there's just a lot of different, very interesting things that can come in that help us understand that there's something that needs our attention.
Yeah, recognizing patterns is a pattern for me lately. Like it really is. We were just with a family as part of our consulting family office business and helping the family realize what patterns are they getting into, where are they getting stuck, how can we get them unstuck? Right, patterns aren't necessarily bad, but what's happening? And I just joined an EO group. Or not an EO group, excuse me, a focus group, and kind of like a forum. And the whole purpose is to recognize our own patterns. So, and that's what you're doing. So this just keeps on coming up in my life. Mm-hmm. What I'm basically trying to say is, because I can recognize them, I'm spiritually intelligent.
What does spiritual intelligence mean to you? I know I'm not asking the questions here, but
you can ask all you want. I think, to me, spiritual intelligence is being in a state. So this is something that I really like, that I just recently read and appreciate. 3 concepts: belief, doubt, and faith. So belief and doubt are considered pretty much opposite sides of a coin. Belief is I just believe it, and doubt, I just don't doubt it. And so
You don't believe it.
I don't believe it. Thank you. And they're, I don't think either of them are all that admirable for me. For me, what I want to do is just have faith, and faith is just love, accepting. And so for me, spiritual intelligence is suspending disbelief and suspending belief and just loving and accepting what comes to me in life and what's real at that moment.
Yeah, what you're tapping into right there in faith is that it is, you suspend your head to some extent. The logical part saying, this is, I can't see it, so it must not exist, right? The classic, I think, therefore I am, sort of goes out the window.
Yeah.
And this is where that spiritual intelligence comes in, but your faith is going to be in your heart. You're just going to send love out.
Yeah.
With an understanding that there are forces at work in this universe. Mm-hmm. As in the Alchemist, he said, the universe conspires to help you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That if you approach, and this is my experience, life with love and gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude for that which you receive that you like, and gratitude for that which you receive that you don't like. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just be grateful for the fact that you were present to receive it.
Yeah.
And have some expected outcome from that. Faith will take you there, and that's where miracles occur. And as human beings, we are really powerful.
Yeah.
Belief powerful.
Yeah.
And, I've had a life, and I know there's been times that I've had some low points. And I think the self-talk was, well, if I'm sitting in a hole full of shit and I don't like being here, I got to take responsibility. I probably put myself in here. If I blame somebody else, then I'm powerless.
Yeah. But
if I take responsibility that I had something to do with it, then I can get myself out of it. You don't give away your power. You stay in, and you keep your power available to yourself. But the interesting part about it is also recognize that power is connected to a bigger power source.
Yes.
Right. And then that's where you start working on some stuff. That's what faith will get you there. There's a big source of power and life in this universe that if you hook into that, you talk about cultivating abundance, mm-hmm. That's where it lies.
Yes.
Okay?
Right.
If I talk about unleashing potential, that's where it lies. Mm-hmm. All this stuff that comes out to it. So in a business, be it a manufacturing service or whatever the case may be, the trick is to get all those people to realize that they have a shared vision, a common purpose, and that they can be the best that they can be and create an environment by which they're also rewarded.
Yeah.
Going back to the bakery, we doubled their hourly rate, in less than 2 years.
Wow.
And now they had to give us the ability to do it. I always say, give me the opportunity to reward you, but I can't reward you until you give me the opportunity.
That's right.
It starts with you.
Yeah.
And so they felt empowered. They knew they could do that. Mm-hmm. And as we saw the business grow and they contributed more, we had to adapt and change it. And there's a lot of inflection points in business too. If you're growing, I work with a lot of companies that are emerging, and then one day it really changes, and you got to be prepared for that because it'll catch you by surprise. Mm-hmm. But it's at all points, it is about making sure that everyone continues to feel contribution and growth and fulfillment. And it's like a plant, it just kind of grows up from the inside out.
Yeah.
And it pushes the growth outwards.
And I think it's really important too. One of the things that, we come across sometimes in the work that we do is people are like, oh, well, what religion are you based on?
Yeah,
It's like, oh, but you believe in a higher power and things like that. I've worked with so many. I've said half a dozen atheists in the work that I do, right?
Yeah.
Like people who are like, no, there is no higher power. And I'm like, that is okay, let's run with that. Let's run with what that looks like. And it's not about convincing them that there is one way or another. It's about there's a recognition that when we talk about coherence, that happens in an individual, that happens in a group, that happens in, collective effervescence is a great example. Like you ever go to like Hope Core on the internet and you're just like, I just want to watch people being happy and being nice to each other, right? Like there's this invisible force that we recognize, and you don't have to believe in a higher power and you don't have to be religious in order to be able to do it. In fact, we would encourage people to not necessarily say, oh, well, you can only get this through this, or you can only get this through this, and not be limiting in any way, shape, or form, and say that that's one of the reasons why I think the word mysticism, to kind of go back to the original thing, is good, because to me, the mystic kind of sects of all the religions are just the most intriguing to me. They're so interesting, right?
Sure.
Whether it's, Sufism or Christian mysticism or any of these different things in which we recognize we're really trying to not put anybody in a box. That's the whole idea. Nobody needs to be in a box. Nobody needs a qualification that says, well, if you do this, then you get to experience this power of the universe, or then you get to experience this. It's like, no, it's here no matter what. And it doesn't require belief. Faith is a practice, but not a entry ticket.
Faith is a practice, not an entry ticket. Yeah. And mysticism precluded religion. It's always precluded every religion. There was always a belief, a knowing, a coherence before all the rules were set up. So why not just stick to the beginning?
Well, the word mystery in itself is kind of captivating because it sort of indicates the unknown or the hidden, which is gnosis, right? And in many respects, all the major religions have some hidden aspect in themselves, because, if you interpret everything literally, it's going to mean something different than if you interpret things allegorically. And that's the big difference, is the allegory is where the lesson is. It's like, Aesop's fables.
Yeah.
You can read about them and take the story literally. Did Icarus actually have wings of wax and fly too close to the sun? I don't know. Sam probably got tired. But the reality is that's just an allegory of yours.
Yes.
Of when you fill yourself up with such ego that you get to a place where you will get burned by your own behavior. And that's the lesson you're supposed to do. So a lot of the mysticism is an opportunity to change perspective, to uncover what appeared initially to be unknown, but was always present. And I think that's what Kristina's gift really is to just say, consider it from this angle, back to the beach ball. It's just a different point of view. Doesn't make it right, but it may make it more complete.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're trying to do.
And I don't know the answer to this, so I'm asking it. You also, you're everything we spoke of, and are you looking at my balance sheets? Are you looking at my operations of my company? Are you looking at my logistics also? Or are you just coaching me on my internal goals?
Well, I mean, you have to look at how does the business make money?
Yeah.
What are the...
So y'all bring both to the table.
Yeah, you have to.
And you both bring both. Because you keep on saying Kristina this, Kristina that, but you bring this mystic too.
Well, I think we both share some common values and experience in that regard, but again, from a different point of view.
Sure.
Value. In my experience, I've run several companies, right? So I have that. So I understand that part of it. But Kristina's been part of companies and seen the function and the dysfunction of those kind of things.
Sure.
And some of the questions are maybe more fundamental to Kristina in one way. Some are more fundamental to me.
That's right.
But we have a shared view of how they interact with each other.
Right. And so the unique combination of the two of us, right, is that, and that's one of the reasons that I feel that we jive, is that we're very similar in character in terms of curiosity and kind of always wanting to understand and kind of always trying to turn over the next rock to see if we can get that information. Fred is uniquely qualified as somebody who has vast experience, has a lot of people mentoring, has a lot of experience mentoring people, but also with the practicality of just like, what does that feel like to actually go in and do that? I've done that as well. I love to sit in the individual space, but he just thrives in that business space. And so the combination of the two of us in terms of what, knowing that we share that commonality of like, hey, your ABCs. You got your ABCs in line, and that we share a lot of those basic principles that are in alignment together, like the universe is neutral, and practicing indiscriminate gratitude as a different balance practice. Things like that are really important. And Fred is just he's got that ability to just get things done in the most unique way.
So I'm listening to this. I want to scale. I'm stuck. Short of calling you and getting some amazing advice, what's the first thing I do?
I would ask why.
Yeah,
Why do you want to?
My response to that is the wise. Let's take inventory.
Yeah.
What does stuck mean? What does I mean? Is it my business that my sales have?
I want a 2x. I want a 10x.
Okay, so because by the other hand, the other stuck might be, and my wife wants to divorce me.
Yeah.
But I think that this thing is going to be the thing that actually makes her come back.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times people come to me and been like, I want to manifest this and this. And I'm like, but where are you manifesting from? Like, are you and this is a personal practice, but it's one that says, like, are you manifesting from a place that says, I'm finally going to be enough once I get this thing?
Redemption. That's what you call
Redemption arcs.
redemption arcs, right? Isn't that what you call it?
That is what I call it.
And so and what you're telling me is I as a leader want something because it's going to make me complete or whole, or I am enough, as we say at Conscious Wealth and many other places. That's flawed.
Yeah.
It's on sand.
Yeah. You think it's going to some status, you say you want to create a frustrated billionaire, give someone $100 million because there's no fulfillment. It's the classic case of ennui. You achieve the thing you thought was going to give you all happiness and fulfillment, and you realize, no, it doesn't, because it's an inside-out job. And I think that's where the balance comes in. It's great to have a scorecard, and I'm all for having a beautiful place to live, nice cars. I believe in all that because wealth brings you freedom. It is. But if your wealth is brought up out of a corrupt soul, then you're going to have a different challenge.
You say wealth brings you freedom, but at the same time, I hear you saying wealth is also your health. It's also your spiritual well-being. And so it's a very expansive approach.
Oh, yeah. If I'm of ill health, what's how much money I have? I can only worry about one thing.
Yeah. I know you know that. I know you believe that. Yeah.
So it's a real critical piece of it. And wealth, to your point, it's got a big umbrella word.
Yeah.
Just like freedom has a big umbrella word attached to it. We said this is the universal principles.
Yeah.
Abundance, I believe, is a universal principle.
It's love to me.
Yeah.
That's what we say.
Love is the emotion and gratitude that engages with that.
All Bremer forces, right? Yeah. They're all forces that can be used that we don't, I would say that we don't quite understand yet in our minds and hearts. We can feel them, but we can't quantify them. And so they feel soft, or they feel something that we can't do otherwise. And so, I always use the analogy. It's like, are you going to start the race, so to speak, to create something within your own heart? It doesn't even have to be a race. It could just be a walk. Are you going to start in a hole 5 feet in the ground because to your point, you don't have your health.
Yeah.
You don't have a solid, the wealth aspect of it that's monetary. You don't have the right perspective. So you're coming from a place where you're just like, or, whatever it is, there's a lot of circumstances in which privilege has set people behind, right? Or set it so that they don't feel like they're on an even keel. But there are a lot of things that are in our control, right? And can we take, responsibility for those things and make it so that even just a shift in our mindset is able to actually make it so that suddenly that hole isn't as deep and we're able to actually start from a place that is much more solid ground, right? That doesn't feel like, oh, well, everything is riding on me getting this, scaling 10 times, when actually I just want to be able to, it's the fisherman allegory. Man goes up to the fisherman. We've all heard that one, right? It's like, oh, so I can retire and become a fisherman. Yeah. I can build my whole empire so I can retire and become a fisherman. Try and figure out what that is. What is your ideal of retiring and becoming a fisherman, or having the right health, or any of the pillars that do practice and conscious wealth, right? That we all do.
Yeah.
And see what that looks like.
Yeah. So I'm an entrepreneur and I want to scale. My question isn't how do I do this, but why do I want to do this? And what inside, and then I would think, is my why worthy of my effort? Mm-hmm. That's what I would ask myself.
Yeah. Yes.
Is it worthy? And do I have enough energy to, it's like I work with you, Kristina. It's like we've done work together. It's like I'm a client of both of yours. It's like unbelievable. So I should finish my thought. So then my other thought is then do I have the energy to put forth that effort that I think is worth it?
Right.
And if it's not an astounding yes for all of those or a resounding yes for all of those, then it's probably let's come up with a new why or a new what.
Yep.
I mean, what do I
Well,
want?
they say, it's a question life. I mean, a life of reflection.
That's
That's the bit. That's big. If you're stuck, that's the whole point of taking inventory is a reflection of what's going on. Where am I stuck? What is stuck about this?
Yeah.
And then what the cause of that may be not even what you think it is. Maybe different than.
yeah.
It's like when you go to exercise the 5 whys. When you go through why is this and why is this, and then you finally get down to the real core issue.
Yeah.
And sometimes that core issue is really well hidden in there.
Yeah. I love it. I think, I guess the last thing I'll ask you to, and you can answer it any way you want, but I'm wondering, there's such an emphasis now, and we talk about it, scaling a business. I guess we just answered that. I guess I was going to ask, is it because I wonder how important scaling is.
Very.
Okay.
And the thing you have to be mindful is this: growth is arithmetic. Okay. When you scale a business, it's exponentially complex.
Yes.
And if you don't know that, you're going to get bit.
Well, then let's repeat it. Growth is arithmetic, so it's very linear. Yep.
Okay, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1.
Yep.
Okay, so when you scale, it's exponentially complex.
Now I got to get an HR department. No.
Well, everything
Now I
else,
got to do this.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I got to get technology. I got to get policy. I got to get procedures. And this,
Yes.
the complexity is what bites you. This you can do all day long, but this makes it challenging because scaling a business is almost like you have to build a scaffolding in order to build a skyscraper within it.
Mhm.
Okay, and you also have to make sure that your foundation is appropriate to the size of the building you want to build.
That's right.
Okay, so if you want a 100-story building, a 10-foot story building foundation is not going to work. So it all back to balance. It all has to be in balance and having a clear vision of what you're trying to do. And so scaling the business is absolutely essential. And the other thing is to recognize that you as the individual, the entrepreneur, you may have the same title. You're always going to be the owner, the CEO, the president. Your activities, year 1, year 3, year 5, year 10, totally different.
Totally different.
The job has changed dramatically in
Yes.
terms of demands of the job. And the question is, are you willing to fulfill the role necessary that's being thrust upon you?
Yeah.
Do you really want to do that? Some people don't.
I get it.
And you bring someone else in to help you run the stuff you hate doing so you can do the things you love. Great. Whatever the way it is, there's no one way to do it.
That's right.
Many entrepreneurs become tremendous leaders. You get someone like the examples always like of Steve Jobs, who got fired and left and learned and then came back and just created this incredible company, right?
That's right.
So, but he went through his dark nights of the soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had to go through an ego death, very public ego death to go through that. And as a leader, there are times you will go through an ego death and cycles.
Mm-hmm.
It is a cycle, and you have to learn how to recognize it. All businesses exist in a symbiotic relationship with the outer world. And so as things change geopolitically, environmentally, health-wise, economically, all those different things that are going constantly, you have to keep an eye on
Mm-hmm.
and then see how you adjust your business. This is all dynamic.
Yeah.
A business is as alive as a human being is. He
Yeah.
said is as complex of an organism, if not more, that as a human being is.
That's right.
And it's beginning to sort of read that and understand it and get a sense of it. And it's going to come from, your head, I think Ray Dalio said that reality is an accurate reflection of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And then the emotion around the heart, because you may care for your people, but there's a difference between being a kind leader and a nice leader. Nice leader is looking for approval from the subordinates and be liked and all that kind of stuff. That's not effective. That's a road to disaster. A kind leader says, I love you, but I'm going to hold you accountable. This is a business. We're going to get results.
Yeah.
And then that whole gut feel about let's get out there and take some action. Let's go do something. Don't sit around in a room having meetings all day long. Go take some action.
Amen.
And whatever that may be. All businesses have a customer of some sort, be it a service business or a manufacturing business. Never lose sight of that individual.
That's right.
What is represented by that cohort. Because if they're thrilled, your business is going to do well. If they're not, your business is going to collapse. And then ironically, people get all caught up in the complexity of this and that they forget that, oh, wait a minute, I'm here to make this individual happy.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
Yep. Kristina, in light of the fact that you're both mystics and you're both executives, I do want to, because I don't want to put you in a box, as we spoke of before, but I would like to know, in closing, what's your definition or equivalent or analogy of scaling a business spiritually and emotionally?
It's a great question because I think that there's an aspect of it that is ego death that is absolutely necessary. So ego death is something that I deal with a lot because people will find that suddenly it feels like everything has been pulled out from underneath them, right? It's almost as if the the building is growing and they're kind of like, their life is growing and they may not be a willing participant in that yet. With the scaling of a business.
What's that look like? I'm not sure I understand what that means.
Yeah. So there have been sometimes ego deaths are triggered by great world events.
Okay.
And everyone will go through one at the same time. Like if there's kind of something bigger happens. Sometimes it happens in your own life. A lot of the times, for instance, if you was a parent, losing a parent is a great example of an ego death because everything that you thought you were doing for you, you may actually start to realize you're doing for them.
Okay.
And then you start to say, okay, wait, I need to actually really reevaluate what it is that I'm doing as a person here and how I want to show up in the world, right? Particularly when the same-sex parent passes. It's a very, it's a moment in which you really have an opportunity to reevaluate. So if we think of an ego death as the shedding of the skin of the snake, the snake is too small for the skin. It no longer needs to sit in that thing anymore. That's exactly how you would have with a business, right? It's like, oh, we're ready to shed the skin. And we recognize that just as much as we would love for this to be an amazing experience and it's just going to come off in one go, and aren't we just so happy how this all works? We also recognize that it doesn't always work that way. So what are you doing to be able to make sure that you are riding the tide of what this feels like, of every day maybe doubting yourself and saying, oh, why did I choose to do this? Or any of the things that can come with the emotional aspects of scaling a business and kind of what it's necessary to, 10 times your company, make it that much bigger. You have to, they're kind of two versions of the same thing. One feels voluntary, one feels, a personal one may not feel voluntary, but it's in the same vein. You're growing. And in growing, you have the pains and you have the things that you're going to rub up against, and you're going to have the things that are going to be glaringly obvious that you avoided before.
Yeah.
And that is the real trick of it, right? It's like, what is the thing that keeps recapitulating that you see over and over and over again? Oh, we still have these types of company, these types of clients, they keep leaving and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Right. Or, I'm finding that I keep getting in the same argument with my spouse over and over and over again, right? You're seeing these patterns of recapitulations that are happening in the process of growth. Your life is trying to, or the universe, whatever you want to say, is trying to show you. So becoming sensitive and being in a place of agility to be able to recognize and see those things as they come up, I would say is how they are analogous.
Who's your biggest customer? That's a big ego death.
That's a big.
Yeah. Like,
That's a good business
Sometimes
analogy, right?
there's a good chunk of your revenue's gone.
That's a big one.
And you didn't see it coming.
It hurts.
Well, yeah,
It hurts.
Talk about reflection and
So you've lost one or
what
two.
happened.
So yesterday was like 16 years. 2 days ago was my 16-year anniversary of doing this. I think I've only lost 3 clients in 16 years, and not all of them were our fault. Like our fault, who cares? But like some of them were reasonable losses. But either way, it hurts. It's a gut punch. Yeah. But we shouldn't end on that. So I just want to say it's amazing to hang out with the two of you. Please come over for dinner tonight. I happen to cook a few things for dinner.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes. Yes.
Here I thought I was going to go hungry.
Oh, you will not go hungry tonight. I've cooked a ton for you all. So it's going to be really exciting.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. This is amazing.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.